Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Let's make sure you can hear us. It's John Dickinson and it's Greg Silver. Cheers to another Warriors win as they get the job done against the Dallas Mavericks. 126-102 is the final, and at times throughout the second half, it wasn't even as close as that. We're here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, and also a hat tip and a cheers to Andre Iguodala. The day is much about honoring Andre Iguodala and the number 9, which headed to the rafters at Chase Center, as anything. But the Warriors, another little semi-statement win, I thought, in the building that sits behind us here, Greg, as we go YouTube only here on this Sunday afternoon on KNBR. And folks filing into the YouTube chat. Delayed start, to say the least. We went down for a Steve Kerr postgame press conference, Greg, and then they had the ceremony, and now we're here and set up and ready to roll from Harmonic and Thrive City. So festive atmosphere and day at Chase Center, and another one of those days where it felt like the Warriors are continuing to reach new heights as it relates to Jimmy Butler and everything that he brings to the table and everything that he's helped the Warriors improve upon during his short now, 6-game tenure with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Warriors' ceiling is in the grand scheme of it all. They have played against some teams that have had some bad injury luck. They've played against some teams that have not always brought their A game. But the bottom line is this: they are way better offensively and defensively and just more consistent already in 6 games with Jimmy Butler than they were without him. And I'm not saying that losing Andrew Wiggins doesn't hurt you defensively. I'm not saying they're not going to miss Andrew Wiggins' skill set at some point. I mean, in the one loss they had with Butler, nobody could stop Kyrie Irving. He went for 42, and it was a big problem. But today, it was a bad start in the first couple of minutes. You noted it. I noted it to you in person. It was 9-4. Steve Kerr called timeout, was visibly upset with his team, basically told them, hey, guys, wake up. And then by the next time out, the Warriors had ripped off 15 straight without a Dallas point, and there really was no looking back then. And we've seen in the 2 games out of the All-Star break that the Warriors have done something they've been really prone to having be a problem. They've not done that, rather, which is let a lead slip away. And they let them slip away in games where they end up winning and holding on. They let them slip away in some of the bad, heartbreaking losses that contributed to why they were the 10 seed going into the break. And so, again, only 6 games so far, but 2 you really wanted to have because these are the 2 teams that are above you in the standings right now. And if you're going to have Draymond Green saying we're going to win the championship and all this outward confidence, look, I don't think they're winning the championship either, but the bottom line is you got to go out and back it up, and the Warriors have done just that and then some in a couple of games here.
And a different energy, I think, first and foremost, whether it was the Iguodala jersey retirement pending after the game, whether it was the anticipation of Jimmy Butler's home debut. I mean, the Warriors have played their last 7 games on the road, and you look at the end of that trip, the four games before the All-Star break and the 1 game in Sacramento, all 5 of the games Jimmy Butler had played in to this point were on the road. So I think there was some big-time anticipation for that. There was the energy that Klay Thompson brings with him every time, and this was the 3rd time now this season that he's returned to the Bay. And so I think there really was a palpable different energy to what was going on in the building. And I thought another one of these kind of the Warriors come back and are on the big grand stage again type of moments and type of games. And I thought the crowd was as into it early as well. Hey, appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by always. What's your name?
Alan, Open Coral, and I've been rocking with you since
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
John Dickinson.
That's right.
Thanks, brother. Enjoy a cold one.
John Dickinson, super reporter, might I add.
Super reporter, host, Pilsner drinker, whatever you need. We got it for you. But no, I think there was a different – we've talked about the different energy from the Warrior players. There was a different energy in Chase Center today. Again, a lot of different reasons why. But for the Warriors to come out minus those first 2 minutes, and really put it on the Dallas Mavericks, a team that I'm trying to figure out how they won as many games as they did. I mean, they had only lost one other game since the Anthony Davis trade, even though Anthony Davis only played in the first game after the trade. But they had been a nice little winning streak, beat the Warriors last week. I don't see how they're getting it done, to be perfectly honest. Independent of that, though, the Warriors came out and took it to them early, and the crowd was into it. And again, I think this is another one of those statement-type wins in a way as to what the ceiling can be for this team on an individual afternoon.
Well, I said this to you after the first quarter, and just going off the top of my head, that defensive first quarter in particular, take away those first 2 minutes, that was the best defensive quarter I've seen out of this Warriors team since November 6th in Boston in the second quarter, which, by the way, was a different team, and that was 49 games ago. Little bit of a different squad, and after giving up a quick 9, they allowed just 9 more. Dallas, season low in first quarter points at 18, and then the beauty of it all was that there was no looking back. I mean, Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski continue to play excellent basketball, making this small lineup with Draymond, Jimmy, Steph, and those two really work. When Jonathan Kaminga comes back, it's going to be a boost. It's going to be a different type of skill set, but until he comes back, and it sounds like he's going to miss a couple more games or at least one and then be evaluated over the next 5, that they're doing okay right now with what they got. And it's not perfect, and they still lack a little bit of size. They still lack some outside shooting, but just the calmness on the offensive side of the ball has really worked. And I always have to laugh at this one because this is one of the classic Greg Silver rants off the air that I'm sure you've had the privilege of witnessing a couple of times. When we talk about teams shooting well or shooting percentages from your opponents, yeah, sometimes in a single game, it's just your night or it's just nothing is going your way. But even over the course of 6 games, like we've seen now with Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors, you're getting better production from Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody because you're getting better offensive looks. Same with the defense. Teams aren't hitting threes at a crazy rate against you because you're not giving an NBA caliber player, whether that's Kyrie Irving or, G.G. Jackson last year with the Memphis Grizzlies. If you're giving them warm-up looks, they're going to make them because every player on this level is that good. And the Warriors have gotten it together in a lot of ways. Again, not a perfect roster, but still, Jimmy Butler has helped them in ways that I did not expect to kick in to this degree and this early on.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, it's really been Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody, who were 2 guys that were playing well before the trade, but they are on a different level, especially Brandon Podziemski is on a completely different level. We'll spare everyone what he had to say. Did you catch what he had to say on the? Were you in the press conference yet? Anyway, he was touting his defense as he was going from the floor to the locker room before Steve Kerr came in for his press conference.
I see.
Touting his ability to defend at a high level. And Podziemski, I think, has benefited, and you were telling me just before the show, who would have had him as the guy who would benefit maybe the most from the acquisition of Jimmy Butler being added to this Warriors roster. But those two, Podziemski and Moody, have just, you drop them down the pecking order, you let them both play off of 2 great players instead of just 1 great player, and things just immediately change. To the point about the defense, because I think this is something that's becoming more and more apparent, and Steve Kerr addressed it in the post-game press conference that we had the opportunity to be at. They really, in the non-Steph time, can go clamp down defensively. And they're still vulnerable, I think, to the quicker point guards, the Kyries, the De'Aaron Foxes. I still think that the guys who can really beat them at point of attack, and I thought the Mavs early were really trying to attack Steph, frankly. They were trying to get Steph, and it was just, hey, if Steph's on, you drive. And it was drive and, dish it to somebody by the back. I mean, it was basically all drive and kick type stuff. But when Steph's not on the court, the Warriors actually came out and went into a little bit of a zone, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Off of that helped. That in addition to Kerr yelling at everybody to wake up, got them going. But the ability for that group with Podziemski and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, Moses Moody and Quentin Post have been the other two. That group has been able to really clamp down. So they're vulnerable in some areas defensively, but they also have 5-player groups now that really can be almost locked down defensively, which is how you get on these extended runs that expand leads. And I got to tell you, the only thing that kept them from being up 30 sooner, it eventually got to that point, were some careless turnovers. And again, the thing that's been a problem for this team forever, which is missed layups.
Yeah. Also, just side note on the confidence, I had a friend text me just moments ago asking if Steph has ever hit the night-night, and then they would go on to lose the game, which he hit in the third quarter, by the way, is a little bit of a revenge on P.J. Washington. And so we can laugh about that and P.J. Washington hitting the night-night on him and Steph being the petty king and all that. Bottom line is,
Draymond, by the way?
Oh, yeah, holding it for like a minute?
I mean, Draymond, Steph hit it in the third quarter, and then Draymond was basically, he had it for a full minute staring down P.J. Washington. Like, it was almost like, come and get me, bro. Like, if you want, like, there was a point I mentioned to our buddy Austin Scott that the game kind of had a little bit of that feel where sometimes in a blowout, game gets out of hand a little bit late. It had that feel like there might be an altercation. It really did. And, it didn't happen. We'll see if these two teams meet again. This is the fourth and final scheduled regular season meeting, 3 of them at Chase. But, yeah, Steph didn't forget. Draymond sure as hell didn't forget. And I think the answer to that question is no.
The answer is no, I believe. And I guess what I wanted to say off of that note is that it kind of shows the newfound juice and the newfound confidence for Steph Curry, because I don't think he's hitting any kind of celebration with the first half of the year, roster in a situation like that, even if they're up by 25 points in the third quarter and he's going on a 8-point scoring heater all by himself. Now, I get it that if Anthony Davis was playing in this game, or if they had other size in Gafford and Lively, he might not have done that. But Steph Curry was obviously feeling himself, was getting into petty king mode, and there's just a lot less of a concern that they're going to cough away these leads. It doesn't mean they're not vulnerable to doing so, especially when you look at the pace of today's NBA and the way that everybody can score, especially outside the arc. But this is kind of Warriors of old, like, where they controlled the game, and outside of that first 2 minutes and change, they entirely controlled this game. It was the only time, by the way, that Klay Thompson played against his former team and looked out of sorts.
It was. He was stymied in the first half. Had no points in the first half. He did have, I think, 8 or 11 in the third quarter, but he was outshined by Stephen Curry's third quarter. Steph had 14 at the half and had 16 in the third quarter. And again, we're seeing this team turn defense into offense much more. We're also seeing Steph have the freedom, and I think a big part of it is the fact that he's playing longer stretches. And the rotation has changed to where he's no longer doing the whole I'm playing 6 minutes and then I'm not 4, then I'm back 4, then I'm not 4, then I'm back 4. Like all the subs in and out and all that. He hates that.
I mean, he also played the whole third quarter with the idea of
not going to play
in the fourth.
Right. But the rotation has changed back to where he's playing the first 9 minutes. Yes, today it was longer than that because he was on a heater, and maybe if the game had been put out of hand enough, he wasn't going to come back in the game. But I think that was the alternate plan. But those opportunities, and I think just this team being better overall, and having not such a regular weight on Steph Curry to perform is allowing him the ability, Greg, to have those flurries. He's having those the famous Steph Curry game takeover quarters. Game takeover in Chicago, he's doing it. He's doing it in Houston down the stretch. He's doing it in the game today. Like, he's had moments in a lot of these games where he just looks, frankly, 5 years younger. And so those are the kinds of things, defense turning to offense and Steph being able to go on those little mini runs himself. Those are the kinds of things that flip games in a big-time way in the Warriors. Like, that's how you win a game with a great 4 minutes. And the Warriors used to win games with a great 4 to 8 to a quarter all the time. They've recaptured a little bit of that swag as well.
And we could be honest about the age factor for Steph Curry. And the reality is that while he's going to be 37 next month, a lot of what you've seen this season is that he is still capable of being the guy that we saw today and the guy that we saw in the third quarter.
He's had more of those in the last, since Jimmy Butler's been here, I think, Greg, than he had since the first 15 games of the season.
Well,
combined.
Exactly, because when you have what the situation was before and you don't necessarily know what kind of support you're going to get, especially offensively, before that, and you had Draymond Green missing time, and that was the whole thing with his partial calf tear and then the back, and you just hope that he can stay durable over the course of a season here down this home stretch when they're trying to rack up some wins, because health is a big issue when you have three guys 35 or older. What I was going for with Steph is if you're a guy who's listed at 6'2", 6'3", and you're going to be 37 next month, and you're the only clear threat on a consistent basis, and you got young, athletic wings or paint presences like an Anthony Davis, and teams just know they are going to make anyone else but you beat them, it's really, really hard as an aging player on a night in and night out basis with back-to-backs, and he's nursed minor injuries all year to do what he's done. And now Jimmy Butler comes along, and Jimmy Butler isn't some kind of magic pill where it's like Kevin Durant joining the Warriors and, oh my gosh, this is a skill set we've never seen before. But even just a player of Jimmy Butler's level goes a long, long, long way in how hard Steph has to work out there. And we've seen a clear difference already.
Jimmy Butler is a great player still. Like he is a star. He is a star bordering on superstar, to be perfectly honest. Now he does it, I think, in a different way than a lot of other stars do. I mean, he is, and Steve Kerr talked about this a little bit in his pregame press conference. He's just such a fundamentally sound player. I think that's the part that I maybe even underestimated. And I've said this, watching him with Miami, even though it's a similar system, I think he had a lot of the same problems that Steph was having with the Warriors, and that so much of what Jimmy Butler was being asked to do was to carry the team that at times he looked incredibly inefficient. And it kind of made you think that he wasn't as good a player as he actually was, because he was having to carry so much of that load for Miami constantly. And you lose sight of the fundamentals when a guy's got to be 7 of 18 or 8 of 21 because his team needs him to take that many shots and facilitate and be the anchor defensively along with Bam Adebayo. Like I just, in a lot of weird ways, and the whole opposites attract, and Steph saying, hey, Jimmy's maybe the most polar opposite player than compared to me in the league, like that kind of thing. In so many ways, we're starting to see how Steph needed Jimmy Butler as much as Jimmy Butler kind of needed a Steph. And you're seeing it work hand in hand, and now you're seeing it work with the other role players slotted into different roles and asked to do different things, and now they're leveling up.
What's so fascinating, and not that this is anything new, JD, and it's not something we didn't already know before, but just how much of for all the noise and for all the talk and for all the people's opinions out there, at the end of the day, it's what have you done for me lately and what can you produce? Jimmy Butler, a lot of mixed reactions here in the fan base. Before you showed up, I saw our friend Julia and her lovely daughter Emma come out for their first game this season, and we were talking about it, and she said, I'm going to be honest, I was not in on this whole Jimmy Butler trade, and I've decided to completely shut off the water. A lot of ovations today here at Chase Center. Jimmy Butler was getting a lot of cheers. Brandon Podziemski was getting a lot of cheers pregame. Two things that not necessarily would have been the case if you just put a bunch of people in an arena beforehand, especially with the start that Podziemski had and a lot of the impatience and belief that Podziemski was a big roadblock for the Warriors acquiring a second star in the summer there. What have you done for me lately? Guys are playing better. Oh, and by the way, as I look at you on the periphery, I see a Jimmy Butler III white jersey right over here in Harmonic Brewing.
Yeah, we got one right here. We got one right here next to Draymond because they're pals. And they're just, I mean, it's
the honeymoon phase. I'll say it.
It is. Well, it is. But here's the thing. This is probably a short-term marriage. It probably is. I mean, it's the remainder of this year and it's next year. And I think next year is the real all-in year. And then you see what's left for that final year. Although, as Miami found out, once you get close to that potential final year on a contract, things can get a little bit sketchy, and we'll see. And Jimmy Butler's been beloved and everywhere he's been until he's not. So that's also a part of the equation. But again, who cares about that? Who cares about whether Jimmy Butler's pissed off 2 years from now? Like, you jump off that bridge if you get to it. What's important right now is that Steph is feeling the Jimmy Butler vibe. Jimmy Butler's feeling the Steph vibe. Draymond Green is feeling both of their vibes. And everybody else, from Brandon Podziemski to Buddy Hield to Moses Moody to Quentin freaking Post, is feeling their vibe. And Quentin Post with a poster today, at least for him, he continues to make an impact. So, look, it's 5-1. I think you could make the case as you run through it. And I did this a little bit yesterday on Just Dubs, Greg, but I'll reiterate the point. You can go through each of these games and say, Chicago stinks. Milwaukee didn't have Giannis. Dallas beat the Warriors the first time. Warriors got it back in this game, but Dallas isn't really shit. Oh, wait, I can say that.
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
Dallas ain't shit. So I'll say it again. And yeah,
look at JD stepping in and realize it was just a small puddle of water.
YouTube only. JD unplugged. JD after having a cold one and not on the radio.
By the way, as we dive into the YouTube chat a little bit, I got to give a shout out to our buddy Erwin.
Jump in anytime.
Calling it the Kolsch Brothers. That's our nickname here. And this actually isn't a Kolsch.
Although we're drinking Pilsners today.
But for the sake of the nickname, I think Kolsch Bros is what it's got to be.
And San Jose Jazz Fan 4 said, is the Pilsner on the now officially on the JD menu? And it is.
Yes, it is.
It is officially on the. But yes, the Kolsch Brothers. I love it.
We also have the rare comment from Twitter, and it's a good one. Unforced turnovers are down. Free throw percentage is up. So I'll address the turnover side of that first. You're playing on Jimmy Butler time when Jimmy Butler's got the ball.
Yes.
He just looks like he's standing there all slow, doesn't know what he's going to do. But to that point, he's never really rushed, and I think there's an element of stability in the offense. Now that goes to the second part of that, which is free throws. Yeah, the percentage is up, but you know what's way up? Free throw quantity. And the Warriors, after 3 quarters today, and that's really the only stat I'll focus on because the fourth quarter, that game was out of hand, and we got to see Yuri Collins come into the game and Kevin Knox.
Oh, it was Jay Crowder for a second. I was like, no.
Yeah, seriously.
And who's wearing 99?
And Jimmy Butler, so many times when he draws a foul, like we saw at the end of the third quarter or whatever, it's not just a momentum changer in terms of stopping the flow of a game. Gives your guys a second to rest. It gives Steph Curry a prolonged rest if he's on the bench. And also, when we've seen the Warriors like 24-point leads go down to 4 in a really short span, getting to the line, and even if you're not perfect, if you're just making an adequate enough percentage, well, maybe it gets from 24 to 10. And you got to be on your toes a little bit, but it's not all of a sudden like the game's on the brink of getting out of hand and you lose control entirely if you're able to get to the line at a little bit of a higher rate. So I know free throws and getting to the line and making your shot, like it can sound like such a cliche, and one stat is never the tell-all on this level. But if we're going to talk about most noticeable changes, what we've seen with the Warriors, free throw quantity is right at the top of the list with a big one.
I love this comment from Regulator. We went from worrying about blowing leads in the fourth to Steph doing his night-night with 2 minutes left in the third. You can come on over. Confidence hasn't been this high in a while. Come on over. Say hi.
We're camera right here.
We're live here right now. I want to say hi. I want to make sure you're in the shot. What's your name? Elizabeth. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Elizabeth. I like your jacket. You need a KNBR. You need it's like the same jacket. It's a beautiful thing. Wonderful to meet you. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening. Awesome. Elizabeth, what's your son's name? Ryan. Nice to meet you, Ryan. JD, Greg Silver.
Ryan, that is one of the best hoodies I've ever seen.
We love it.
It's got Oakland spelled out with all the BART lines.
We love it. We appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. Absolutely. Anytime. We appreciate it. Fun game today. Elizabeth and Ryan. We've got mother and son hanging out at the game today.
And does it get much better than that?
I love that. I love it. Elizabeth and Ryan, and they're like, oh, KNBR, we love those guys.
And they say young people don't listen to radio, and I take that very seriously, JD, as a nice, beautiful young face who has a face for radio, might I add.
Not like the guy you're sitting next to, brother. That's hello. Like, what we got to video stream this? Come on. Can we? Drew Butler. That gets me every time, even though it's been a thing for like 3 weeks. JD, man of the people, always a man of the people. JD and Greg bringing families together. Thanks, Andis.
And then the best one of all, Uncle Looney, loving the youth.
Love the youth. We're pro youth. I'm pro youth. I'm going on 25.
Well, also, JD can hang with the young crowd.
I don't ever tell. It's a funny story. So this to your partner, Greg Papa, right? Who you're on, 10-2, obviously, Papa and Silver, Greg and Greg, the G spot.
Whatever, the unofficial name.
The unofficial name, which they're not allowed to call it, that I probably wouldn't even reference if we were actually on the radio. But Greg Papa really wants to call it that. Like, that's like, let the people, well, I'm sure they know, because I'm sure that, yeah.
It is. It's an ongoing battle. I think it's funny. I get some humor out of it. I also see the practicality and how maybe that's not the best name for a 20 hours on the week radio show, especially, consider the different variety of guests you might get. Might not always land the same with everybody.
So, quick story. So Greg Papa, this was on my 35th birthday. It was on my 35th birthday. So years ago. And Greg, I was doing a hit. This is in a prior life. I will say that. It was in a prior life. I've been at KNBR. You can do the math. I've been at KNBR a little over a year and a half. This is in my prior life. It was in a Greg prior life also. So I was doing a hit. In a prior radio life, of which we don't speak, but we will for the purposes of this story. And it was my birthday, and the producer had said, God, the producer might have been Derek Papa at that point. But the producer said, that's JD's birthday, and Greg. So at the end of the hit, Greg says, JD, I hear it's your birthday. I don't know if you're 25 or 45. You're timeless. The 25-year-old guys love you. The 45-year-old guys love you. The 65-year-old guy, he's like, JD, you're timeless. It was beautiful and on point. It's the best I've ever had the JD aura explained. Was by your partner, Greg Papa.
I mean, you showed up to our buddy Austin Scott's apartment, and, you probably bumped the average age up a little bit.
I can hang with the 25s, and I can hang with the 65s. It's all good. It's all good. I am truly a man of the people.
As we get into the YouTube chat and basketball this digression,
take it back.
Might I say I have a new name for Dubs OT / Just Dubs. And that is with 5 offensive rebounds today, 8 total, the Gee spot.
The Gee. Oh, my God. You've been around Greg Papa too long. You've officially been around Greg Papa too long. What's it been, 3 months?
Well, we're going to the NFL Combine this week, so let the corruption begin.
Enjoy the Shake Shack there.
Yes.
Anyway, enjoy the Shake Shack in downtown Indy at 3 in the morning. You're going to run into a lot of drunk coaches. Excuse me.
All right, I'll ask the chat right here since we're on a YouTube stream, and we can just kind of, shoot the shit, which I'm allowed to say as well.
All right, careful there,
Which
Silver.
drunk coach do you want content from the most?
Sirianni.
Yeah, but I feel like the Bay Area gets so bothered by him that I don't know if that's the list.
They would be more bothered, but I think it'd be great. Like, he would just be talking. He'd be talking shit about everybody. I feel like Sirianni unplugged to be like, yeah, this blah 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 blah, and that blah 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 blah. It'd be a lot like JD. It'd be a lot like when you get a few more, and not having it on 3/4 of one. People, I'm not going to start telling media industry stories off of 3/4 of a Pilsner. But anyway, we digress. But yeah, I'm timeless. Regulators deal. Let's go. That's what happened before Elizabeth got us. You got me on a tangent. And yes, I'm more willing to go on tangents when we're YouTube only. Stick to basketball. I'm sure in the chat right now. Stick to basketball. Stick to Jim Tomsula, Uncle Looney.
Well, you
Jim
know what
Tomsula.
I love
Drunk
is that
Bochy being these.
Oh yeah, we've heard Kerr, Bochy, and
Nelson.
Shanahan. Donnie Nell.
Don Nelson's a good one.
Nelly.
Absolutely. Nelly. Nelly used to come out with a Bud Light after. I'll never forget. Nelly come out after. This is a playoff game. This is when he's coaching the Mavs. So this is like mid 2000s, and it was a young JD at that point. Again, do the math if you want to figure out how old I am. And he was the Mavs coach. And I was very young and covered visiting locker room. And he comes out of the locker room with his can of Bud Light. And there's a bunch of cameras around doing, shooting the scrum. And he comes out and he takes a sip of his Bud Light. He answers the question. He goes, "Oh," classic Nelly. Nelly goes, "Oh, they don't want me to have this." Meaning like the NBA didn't want him drinking beer during his press conferences. So he took his beer and he just set it off to the side until he was done. He walked over and set it up on a ledge and was like, "Yeah, I'll get back." But he just completely called, "Oh, the NBA doesn't want me to have this while I'm talking to you guys." It's classic. Vintage Nelly.
We're just getting all the Bay Area coaches at this point. Tony La Russa, Dusty Baker, and it's asking me about Cal men's basketball head coach Mark Madsen. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty fired up just on his day job, so I feel like that'd be fun.
Uncle Looney, Chip Kelly drinking a smoothie. Yeah, Chip Kelly's drinking, yeah, absolutely. Chip Kelly drinking a smoothie. To go back to the original regulator, I think, do we have it? It doesn't matter if we don't. Went from worrying about blowing leads in the fourth to Steph doing night-night with 2 minutes left in the third. Confidence. It was the point about the confidence. When was the last time this Warriors team was? I think the literal answer as to when was the last time they were this confident was the 12-3 start after 15. But I don't even think that was this. I think we're talking like 2022 playoffs where they're up in a series and they're up 3-0 on Denver. They're up 3-0 on Dallas. They never were behind in the series against Memphis. I mean, to me, it was that level of confidence.
If I got to pinpoint a moment in time just for the sake of this discussion, I'll probably say 2023, having beat Sacramento in Game 7 on the road, just because prior to that Lakers series, the Warriors had always find a way to figure it out in time. And then the Lakers beat them. The Warriors ran out of gas. Jordan Poole gets traded. We kind of all know how it devolves from there. But that was kind of the first indication when LeBron James and the Lakers beat them, when the Warriors had home court in that series, might I add, that it was like, oh, they didn't just flip the switch when they needed to. And when Steph Curry goes on the road and scores 50 in a legacy game and kind of silences that Golden One crowd with the bells that had been so loud. And by the way, great arena, great fan base showing out for that first playoff series in 17 years. There was still this idea of, oh, we still got that dude and you still got to deal with him. And so I would say that with that, it's probably the last time you had this level of confidence in them. Now, I don't know what they would say as far as the team or Steve Kerr or Mike Dunleavy or Joe Lacob if you gave him the truth serum. But if we're going to talk about just kind of the community feel of it and the fan pulse and probably how we talked about it in the media, which I was not part of in this degree at the time, I would probably go 2023, Kevon Looney, second best player in a playoff series.
Although that, I'll tell you from covering that series, Greg, that series never felt like the Warriors were confident. I mean, they were figuring out ways to win and maybe – when you said that, I was taken aback to Steph in the second half, basically, of Game 7, when Steph is going for 50 and they're starting to expand the lead. And it's, all right, it's a 20-point game now. And you could kind of feel it in the moment in the building in Sacramento like, even the Kings fans were, oh yeah, it's like he's not losing to us today. Like it was just, and it was like, oh yeah, the storybook, it's over. So maybe you're right. He did, and it wasn't in the third quarter. But if you remember, he did light the beam. He did extinguish and light the beam at the same time with about 4 minutes to go in that one. Yeah. And the Warriors up by about 20. But yeah, so that's a good mention. I just think this team is Draymond said it. They feel like they can walk on the court a lot of games and just they know they're going to win. I think there's been a lot of debate. I want to get your take on this. There's been a lot of debate about, well, the Warriors haven't played anybody yet. And you can run through it like we did. Bulls suck. Bucks didn't have Giannis. Mavs beat him when Kyrie went wild. The Warriors kind of own Houston. And then the Warriors able to bounce back. Sacramento, I think, is going the wrong direction, even though they're still a 500 team. And then today you get one back against Dallas. I've said this to you a lot. We talked about it in the early part of the season when the Warriors were 12-3. I think when you're trying to establish an identity, facing bad teams for a stretch initially helps, and it translates the confidence from the way that you play in those games translates to when you do start playing better teams. I think we saw it at the beginning of the season. The Warriors smoked Portland, smoked Utah, come home, get beat by the Clippers. Then things got a little weird with the injuries. But the confidence that they built early on from some of those wins when they didn't have Steph Curry, and then they got things rolling on that road trip, that confidence that they gained from the weak schedule early and winning some of those games and different players being a part of it, it helped them beat Boston in Boston, and it helped them beat Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City, and it gave them the confidence to come back on Clay Day number 1. Today was Clay Day number 3, but Clay Day number 1 back in November. And so I think this is a great problem for the Warriors to have, honestly, to have the ability against some lesser teams. And I don't think Dallas, today, a few people yesterday, Greg, said, well, Dallas would be a measuring stick. I don't think this Dallas team is a measuring stick.
Not without Anthony Davis, who always kills the Warriors.
I don't think this Dallas team is very good right now. But they're not horrible, and they did just beat the Warriors 2 weeks ago, I guess, now on the calendar, a week and a half ago before the All-Star break. I don't know. Where are you on that? I think a team trying to find an identity, it's a positive thing that they can have some games to work their way into a rhythm. And now, this team's 3 over, hadn't won 3 in a row in forever. They're 3 over 500. And now it's like you start, all right, Charlotte's coming in. Can't lose to Charlotte, right? Can't do that. But now you're 4 over and you're going on the road and you're playing some teams that are struggling. And so this thing has the potential to really, really become, I think, something relatively quickly.
And I think it has to. And I put Andis's comment up there, playing bad teams are the get-right games. Okay, so get right. Sometimes you have circumstances that do not go in your favor, and you got to find a way around it. And sometimes you do. And when you do, you got to take advantage of it. The Warriors have had too much of a shortage, JD, of taking advantage of circumstances that on paper should work in their favor. And it ends up not being something that they capitalize on. That's why they were a 500 team for a whole lot of the first part of this season. And you mentioned my full-time co-host, Greg Papa. I'll talk about my temporary co-host, Dieter Kurtenbach, who filled in for a couple of days with me this last week. We had a little bit of a discussion, and debate might be a strong word, but I insinuated that these first 2 games out of the break were going to be an important barometer for the Warriors because it was the 2 teams that were above you in the standings, Sacramento and Dallas, who, by the way, had a tiebreaker over you because you kept letting them slip. Dieter went the other way and said, I think the 4 after that are the important ones because you look at the schedule.
Orlando, Philly, Charlotte.
So Charlotte twice.
Again.
Yeah, and Orlando, who's a good team, and they're young and up and coming, and they're well coached, but they still have some hurdles to get through, and the Warriors should be able to take advantage of it.
2 Charlottes.
So Charlotte, Orlando, Philly, Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, but essentially now that they did go 2-0, I think you got
dropped an F-bomb. What do the two Charlotte games tell you? I know you didn't say it, but
well, I think his point is you got to go 4-0 in that stretch. And I look at it now.
Yeah, maybe. You got to go 3-1. I think.
I agree. Now that you've won the two, I think you can afford a loss.
Yeah, you can't. But you have an opportunity to run the table. I mean, I think Orlando's still the game that maybe could get a little bit weird. I think the ABC, the Philly game's at ABC Saturday night showcase game. So I think there's a little bit of juice from that goes both ways. I think the Sixers will be more engaged. The Sixers are talking about surgery for Joel Embiid. That news breaking here within the last – and they stink anyway. They've been so mismatched with players being out and injuries and all that. I mean, their season's cooked. They're basically tanking at this point. Yeah. So that, the Orlando game is the toughest of all of those games. But we saw the Warriors handle business against Orlando just a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, there is a real opportunity at 3 over now to get to 4, 5, 6. I mean, they might be able to quickly get to 6 or 7 over 500.
And if they do, we're talking a lot more seriously about a 6 seed or a playoff series.
We got another special guest here.
What's going on?
What's your name?
Hey, how's it going? My name's Lars.
Lars, nice to meet you. Get down. You got to duck down, big guy. We got
Lars. We don't always force people to get in the shot, but the deal is
it's a great jacket.
He's got fashion on point today.
I was gonna say we've had a lot of really quality fashion. Yeah, we could. Yeah, Clay hat, and then a beautiful girl. This is like you are after Greg Silver's heart with the jacket.
I actually got this in my first
That's.
Chase Center. I think Iguodala played this game. This is Latin Heritage Night 2022.
There you go. 20. Yes, absolutely. So yeah. So thank you for stopping by. Absolutely.
It feels like a moment in history. It feels like.
We're gonna hand him the mic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just
I just
since
want
we
to
have
say,
it.
doesn't this feel like a moment in the history of Chase Center? Like the building feels like
Today did.
lived
I think.
in. I feel like this whole season, but this is like almost like one of the most just such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
I think, and just walking around, like walking on the park outside, listening to this music, like it just feels like this building is starting to come on its own. It's taken a while because of COVID, but it really feels like it's been.
Yeah, and I think today, thank you. We'll hand it back to Greg here. Greg, I think was about to walk off the show. I think because we took his.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
Thank you. Be safe. Thank you so
much.
Lars. Thank you. Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
So Lars talking about the fact that today felt different. Today did feel different. I was telling our buddy Austin, I said, hey, yes, definitely Mike. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, wasn't the last time we were here together, excluding the All-Star show, MLK?
Oh, yeah, it was a
40-point loss to Boston.
I
would call it the complete opposite of that.
It was a debacle. That actually, I think, was the low point of the season, believe it or not. I think that was, and I think in hindsight, because they had completely lost their fight. The Warriors had completely, after it was, you remember, they were holding it together okay. Kaminga got hurt. They won the night Kaminga got hurt against Memphis, but then the Kings were here. It was back-to-back home, and the Kings destroyed them here at Chase. And then it felt like they lost a lot of energy after that game, and I'm trying to run through it. I'm going to run through it on my calendar here because I didn't. So they had the game against the Heat. The Heat beat them, right? Heat beat them. Remember, the Heat beat them after the Kings smoked them, and the Heat played double overtime in Sacramento the night before and still beat the Warriors by double digits. Warriors did sneak one out in Detroit, and then ended up losing at Indiana, blew the game in Toronto, came back at home against Minnesota. Got a win against Washington, but I thought the 40-point blowout loss to Boston was the low point of the season, and because it just showed how far away they were from what mattered, which is being a championship contender. I mean, at that point, they're on the outside looking in of even the 10 seed. So I think that was not to interrupt you again because I did, and I'll let you continue, but that was the low point. And since then, they competed in Sacramento, got beat. They beat the Bulls. they competed against the Lakers. Like they stemmed the tide enough, I think, to make it where a trade was worthwhile. But yeah, man, that was. I mean, we're here basically a month later, and that was a bleak afternoon.
We were having conversations off the air about
on the air.
What were the Warriors going to be worth discussing if changes weren't made, and that is not to belittle.
On the air. We were having them on the air.
Well, yeah.
Maybe not when we were on, but I was having them on the air.
Yeah. Your weekly hit with dirty work. I could tell the JD passion was coming out there. So, yeah, the bottom line is they needed to make a change, and so far it's been a change that has benefited them way more than hurt them, and they got a chance to really keep building upon this with a 5-1 start. Had not won 3 games, and I'm ashamed to say this. The Warriors had not won 3 games until today in my entire time being on the midday show.
That's right. It was the game before, right? Or
November 15th.
Yeah, it was the game. Yeah, November 15th. It was the day that was the last time they did it to improve to 10-2, I think. They were 10-2 at that point. At that point, hey, thank you.
And, I was starting to think that I was the problem. And my ego was really getting toyed with. And so today was a big day for me more than anybody. I would say me, Andre Iguodala, and then, I don't know, anyone else who maybe won some money. Anyone who got a free Kolsch.
Yeah. I'm searching through here.
JD's looking at his calendar, and Max is saying JD has a calendar. Drew Butler, our guy Drew Down, saying JD's brain is a calendar. Yeah,
that's
it's
a fact.
True.
But
I think you have the calendar as like a formality, but I don't know if you need it.
Greg will tell you. I did bring up the calendar. I actually did short circuit a little bit. And then I was like, God, who did they play? It was Memphis. I was like, God damn, I knew it was Memphis and Sac. And I couldn't remember Miami. If you gave me a minute to think about it with a bunch of dead air here, we would have I would have probably gotten it eventually, but yeah, I wanted to go to the calendar for the people. But yeah, the brain is kind of.
You want to open up this can of worms? Because we do have some nice numbers here on YouTube and Twitch. I want to
open up every can of worms. Let's go. We're building. We're growing. What's the can of worms we're going to open?
So we can talk about how lovely it's been to have Jimmy Butler. We could talk about, they're going to get Kaminga back.
MVP 11. All right. Hey, how are you? Hey, absolutely. What was your name? Dave? Come on in. Say hi, Dave. Dave, we appreciate you. You might have to duck down. We got the camera a little low. Dave, thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you for. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Be safe.
Thanks for coming by, Dave.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Go ahead. Continue.
So we could talk about all the optimism. Jonathan Kaminga is going to come back, and now Carrito MVP suggesting I think he may be traded in the offseason. I know that statement alone is a discussion that's probably getting ahead of ourselves, considering we've seen 0 games.
2 steps ahead.
But let's talk about how Jonathan Kaminga is going to fit, because they need his skill set. He will have a value.
Right.
All that being said, whose minutes are going to pay the price? Moody? Podziemski? It's insurance if Draymond or Butler or Steph gets banged up.
I think it's insurance if I think it's going to be less is more with Kaminga is sort of the way I've put it. I don't have a number on it. It's not going to be 30 initially. It's going to be 20 to 25, I think, initially. And if he's playing well and others aren't, that's where he'll just absorb minutes. I'm looking at, Guy Santos played 20 tonight. He could get some of those. 5 or 6 of that was at garbage time.
I was going to say, yeah.
So let's say Guy's been playing 14-ish. Maybe that gets dipped down. I feel like he's been less impactful as Moody has become more impactful. Guy had a little run there in that stretch we were talking about where they've kind of bottomed out against Boston and then held it together for a couple of weeks before the trade deadline. Guy really was helping him there. So I think he'll take some of Guy's minutes. I think he might take some of Peyton's, here and there. Maybe some of Moody's. Moody's been playing the 4. But I think where Kaminga really helps him, assuming he accepts the role, is it's going to be if somebody goes down and they need him to play more, he will be there ready to absorb some scoring load. but it's going to happen naturally. It's not going to happen because they're going to him. If Draymond has to miss 8 games, you could plug Kaminga in. I wouldn't say if Jimmy Butler has to miss time because they're not really playing the same position, but you can cobble together a lineup where maybe you throw him into the starting lineup and you get a little bit more scoring, and you can win some. You can go 500 over an 8-game stretch if you needed to. So,
I mean, what Kaminga is going to give you, which he already has been giving you, is getting buckets, getting above the rim, and getting to the line, and that's something the Warriors have continued to do well. I think what he needs to give you, which he hasn't necessarily had to embrace the challenge of yet, is what we've discussed with Wiggins' departure, being a point-of-attack defense guy. And I, for one, and I think you'd agree with this, I think a lot more highly of Kuminga's on-the-ball defense than I do his 5-man unit or help defense.
Sure.
So if he can be someone to defend on the perimeter, the other team's most athletic wing, or maybe even a guard that can be shifty, that could be a big step in not just Kuminga's game, but also his value in a 5-man lineup and the combinations that Steve Kerr always likes to talk about.
I think the mentality has to be there. I said this yesterday on Just Dubs. The fact that the Warriors are winning right now is a good thing because it forces Kaminga to accept the fact that, they're 9-0 now with Moses Moody starting. Like, Moses Moody's not starting for Jonathan Kaminga. It's not even a debate. Jonathan Kaminga is coming off the bench. Unless there's an injury, he was coming off the bench before, and the Warriors were kind of meh. Now they're much greater than meh. Jonathan Kaminga is coming off the bench. That's okay. It's the acceptance of try to be a point of attack defender. That's we'll see how it goes. I think mixed results throughout the course of his career on that front. But it's try to be a point of attack defender. It's get yours in the flow of everything else, right? Get it off of passes, get it off of cuts. Use the fact that Steph and Jimmy Butler together are able to raise the level of everybody else and try to have it raise your level without you having to do much more like it has with Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody. Podziemski and Moody are basically playing the same game, only it's providing more of an impact. Kaminga should have that same mentality. And guess what? It may not mean Kaminga's scoring 20 to 25 points a game. It might mean he's scoring 10 to 14.
Yeah.
But if it's 10 to 14 on 4 for 5, 5 for 7 with some free throws, then that's going to help the Warriors win in 25 minutes. And then I think it's kind of like the conversation we were just having about you want lesser opponents to build your confidence to where then you can start beating some of the better teams. And I think what happens is it's similar. The mentality is similar for Kaminga. Don't come in trying to do too much initially. Be successful. And then if Draymond goes down or somebody else goes down or isn't playing as well and you get an opportunity to expand your role, it's going to happen where you're confident and then you just naturally expand your game. And it doesn't screw anything up because it's the slow build. So I think there's a real nice opportunity ahead for Jonathan Kaminga. The trade stuff, yeah, Digum 117. JK has to accept his role now. He isn't a second option anymore. And he never really was. That's the other thing. He kind of was by default for 10 games.
Yeah.
It was like that. It was never a real thing. He says all the right things. He kind of,
and by the way,
I question whether he believes them, but he says them. And so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt for that.
I feel so much better about Jonathan Kaminga as a number 3 option for this team while he continues to grow.
But he probably isn't even a number 3 option. It's probably you've got your 2 and then everybody else is game by game. And lately it's been Podziemski and Moody. Because here's the one thing we know. Here's what and I'm not saying Kaminga can't get to this, but here's what we know. Podziemski and Moody can do big things keeping it simple. Without having to be considered the third option. Nobody's talking about Moody and Podziemski like they're the third option because they're not. But you know what they're doing? They're just the third option kind of by default because somebody's going to be on a night. Kaminga has to accept that he's there's no pecking order beyond the top two on this team.
Brandon Podziemski did the Brandon Podziemski very well today.
Yes, he did. He didn't shoot great.
In the shooting,
Saw
exactly.
that.
7 of 15. He hit 3 threes, so that's not something you get every game. But he had 13 rebounds, and he was a game-high plus 30.
Right.
And that went a long way.
And that's it. And
That's
Jimmy
it.
Butler was plus 28 in this. I mean, it's the non-Steph minutes now too.
Yeah.
Or not only are they not a problem, but the Warriors in, I want to say, half of these games that they've played have been better in the non-Steph minutes. Like you're increasing your lead. You're helping yourself in the non-Steph, which is, I mean, when's the last time that? I mean, that didn't even happen. I don't even feel like that happened in the heyday. Like the bench group did well, but I don't feel like that even happened in the peak Warrior era.
Yeah.
The dynastic run. Where are you on all the Kaminga stuff?
I want to see how it fits in. And I know I'm the one that initiated this whole conversation by putting the chat up and opening the can of worms, but that's what happens when I get to reunite with JD.
It comes up once a show on Dubs OT.
Exactly.
It's not.
We got to float around different scenarios, and I don't like overreacting to just one game. So you kind of talk about the big picture of it all. I do want to wait and see how he fares, because I think Kaminga could be a really important addition for this team if they are to make said run that Draymond Green has promised, not only the run, but the championship, as he did for All-Star Weekend. So, look, I kind of laughed at the Draymond Green statement today. I still don't believe they're going to be champions, but I kind of had this moment. I texted our guy Dieter. I said, do we owe him an apology? Are we getting closer to owing him an apology? Draymond Green.
Oh, yeah. No. No. April. Like, I'll see you in April on that.
Yeah. But it is funny to have that conversation after they finally won 3 in a row and did it in a dominant fashion like that. So where I stand on Kaminga, JD, is let's see how he fits. Let's see if him taking minutes from Moody or possibly Podziemski or possibly Draymond, let's see if that's a plus more than a minus, and then we'll talk about it.
You got to let it play out, Greg. Gotta let it play out, John. Gotta let it. You've been around Papa too long, man. Like you might need a vacation, bro.
It does going to Indianapolis for the second half of the week count as a vacation?
Is he going with you?
He is.
Then no, it doesn't count.
Corruption sensation. Let's go.
And then no, it does not count. A lot of good comments here coming in on the YouTube chat here on Kaminga, and I was filtering through. Digum 117. I think JK's minutes will be determined by the defense he plays. I think defense is important. Drew Butler had said Kaminga's just got to play his game. If JK's aggressive cutting to the hoop, I think he'll get easy looks. That's what it is. It's looks off of everything else the Warriors are doing. I think it was Enrique Rivera who said no ISOs, no Kaminga ISOs anymore. Yeah, that no Kaminga ISOs anymore. But that's a good thing. Max Lopez, if JK's reading assignments, like at the end of the Lakers game with Jimmy, I'm not sure what he meant. Yeah, Jimmy loves to distribute. If JK is reading assignments like at the end of the Lakers game with Jimmy, okay, got it, and it inspired Draymond, he'll be sitting though. What am I missing? If he's not.
Was it because of the lack of assignment reading when Reeves blew past Wiggins?
Got it.
That's maybe what he's going to. So.
Okay. Oh, got it. Okay, that Laker game. I was thinking of the most recent Laker game.
Yeah. Oh, well, that one when they didn't have Wiggins or Jimmy Butler.
Or Kaminga.
Kaminga. That was bad. That was real bad.
The Laker game, okay.
Or the Utah loss for that matter.
All right, now it all makes sense. We're going back to Christmas. That was Christmas night.
Hey, correct us if we're wrong on that one. But
I was like, which game is he talking about? But yeah, no.
Oh yeah, Bob mentioning the Utah loss. Yeah. No Wiggins, no Kaminga, and no Jimmy Butler, and an 11-point lead with 3 minutes left, and they lost it. That was kind of the moment though, JD, where I'm like, I'm glad they made the trade.
That was a low point. Although I said this, and I think I don't think the Warriors would have won any games other than maybe the Utah game. I think you mentioned that. had they not made the trade. Like, I think they would have lost to Chicago. They would have lost to Milwaukee. They would have lost to Dallas. They would have lost to Houston. They probably would have lost to Sacramento. I kind of stopped it there because it's sort of a different era now officially. But we get a thumbs up on the Christmas game. It was a Christmas game?
Yes.
Yeah, the Reeves winner on Christmas, Max. Yeah, that was bad. Look, I think the beauty of it is, and again, Greg, come down my road if you want. The beauty of it is for me on Kaminga is you're not dependent on him. Like, he's a luxury item again. He's not a necessity. And I think that, like, I love Kaminga as a luxury item. I love Kaminga as an extra. I love Kaminga as can rise to the occasion when others are maybe out or you need a little bit of a boost. I don't love Kaminga when he has to be your second best player. And as far as the trade deadline stuff or the trade in the offseason stuff goes, it's way too early to go down the road. But a big part of between now and the end of the regular season and whatever happens in the playoffs is determining how close or far away you are from a title.
Yes.
And if you're close enough to see it, but far enough to not be able to touch or taste it, Jonathan Kaminga is your number one trade chip in the offseason as a sign and trade.
Oh, 100%. Because what do they have of value aside from the three guys that they don't want to trade?
And I think what happened, if he doesn't fit, then you look to move him. If he does fit and you still aren't quite good enough, then you look to move him. Like, that's the beauty of being able to make the Jimmy Butler trade without having to include Kaminga in it, which is something that never would have been remotely a thought until Jimmy Butler tanked his trade value. Like, it never would have been even to be like Jimmy Butler tanked his trade value by quitting on the Heat, and the Warriors have benefited from that. I mean, Steve Kerr said it in his pregame, like, it's so rare that someone as talented as Jimmy is available. Well, why was he available? He's available because he quit on the Heat. And the Warriors are reaping the benefits of that. Like, that's just reality. Like, eventually might he quit on them? Maybe. But you know what? It's 2026-ish, 7-ish problem, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I had someone come at me
Who gives a
on
shit?
social media being like, he's coming to just ruin another locker room. And I'm thinking,
Yeah, maybe
hey,
in
man,
2 years.
yeah, if it happens, sure.
If it happens in the next 2 years, the Warriors are contending, who gives a shit?
100%.
Like, you know what? It will have made the last 2 years a lot more interesting. That I will say for sure.
What do you make of this one from EB here? One of our regulars. Shout out EB as we got some great music playing in the background.
Who's Polanski?
Well, Podziemski.
Okay. Yeah, no, well, if Polanski can get 13 rebounds, how many does Podziemski get? That's what again, JK's not exactly a willing rebounder, but he does have the athleticism for it. I mean, the numbers are just not the thing for me with Kaminga. It's the mentality. Like, I really don't care about Kaminga's numbers at all, actually. Could he rebound more? Yes. To me, it's impact. It's impact on winning. Like, he could have 8 points.
Yeah, why don't we do a war in the NBA?
He could have, Greg, he could average 8. I'm serious. And people, I'm going to get fired up here. And the people in the YouTube chat know this. He could score 8 points a game between now and the end of the year and help them win. And that's and bring more to the table than scoring 25. Like, he could score 8. He could score 8 points, and they were winning games regularly. And I'm going to come on after him and be like, great for JK to accept his role. Now, he's not going to get $35 million a year doing that, and that's something that might upset him. But so the hell what?
Well, this is where I'm going to lean into your unreal memory. He had back-to-back 34-point games, right? And one of them was against the Clippers on the road when nobody was playing. No Wiggins, no Draymond, no Steph.
End of December.
And that didn't really count for anything.
December 27th, I think.
Yeah, it was right around the holidays. And that was like, okay, like, nice, but the Warriors were never really going to win that game. Then he had 34 against the Houston Rockets without Steph.
3
and
weeks
without Draymond.
earlier.
Okay. So It wasn't back-to-back. But that was a game where it was like, whoa. Jonathan Kaminga filled up the stat sheet, and he made the big boy plays down the stretch with the big buckets. Entirely different games with very similar numbers.
entirely different games with similar numbers. And it's, again, there are going to be games where they're going to need him to score. And he'll get credit for scoring. Like, it's not like Jonathan Kaminga isn't going to come back and have a 25-point game. Of course he is. He can score. And again, there are a lot of ways in which he can help them. But here's what I will say. I think Jonathan Kaminga is playing for his Warriors' future when he comes back. Because if it doesn't fit, he's gone. Because he's the piece that can get them the piece that they need to be a title contender. Or he's going to come in and fit well enough to where they're going to say, we don't want to include him to get the piece to be a title contender because they think
he can be that piece.
He's that piece. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
100%.
So he's playing for his future. But I think the jig is up in terms of this whole, like, they're that's the other thing that I think, and this is a great thing that Jimmy Butler now brings to the table, is that the war, like, they now, like, it's going to force them one way or the other on Kaminga. And it's not going to be, well, he might be, 2 years from now, he might. Like, that ain't going to be part of the equation anymore because they're going to view themselves as close enough to trade him to get over the top. Whereas before, I think they looked at it like, I don't really want to trade him because if we trade him, we still might not be close enough to being over the top. Now I think I'm confident in saying it right now. Maybe you're not. Maybe the people in the chat aren't. I think they are a player away from being a title contender.
Oh, yeah.
They're a player away. Maybe he's that player.
Well, and
maybe he gets them that player. Maybe they get the player somewhere else, but they are a player away.
And what's your umbrella on title contender? Like,
and
top
not an
6
all-star
team?
player. Not an all-star player.
So when you say title contender, you're thinking like a top 5, 6 team?
Well, I think it would probably have to be 6 for the rest of this year, given where they are. But I mean, like,
no, I just mean in the whole NBA, like a top 5 to 6 team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, how many teams can win it? I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a different like, who can win the title this year? We could run through who can win the title this year.
OKC.
Yeah, they can.
Denver.
Yes.
What do you make of Memphis?
No, they can't win the title.
I'm with you on that.
They can't win the title.
What do you make of Luka's Lakers?
Because it's LeBron, I'm going to throw them in there, but I don't think they can win the title.
Okay, so like a low end contender.
So it's like 3. That's it. In the
Cleveland, Boston.
Yeah.
And I
actually think that's
that's it.
And I don't even think Cleveland can, to be perfectly honest.
Okay. But I got to respect 46 and 10.
I'm going to give Cleveland the courtesy for the regular season they're having. Maybe they are the 2015 Warriors without the MVP of the league. But so yeah. I mean, what is that? 5? That's at 5 teams?
5 teams if you included the Lakers.
Thunder. Yeah, the Clippers can't. None of those teams. Nobody else. I mean, the Thunder, I respect. They want no part of the Warriors.
What about the Pelicans?
Okay. Denver, I think can. The Thunder, I think can. The Lakers, I'll give the courtesy flush. And the Cavs, I'll give a lesser courtesy. I mean, Luka and LeBron are still, I mean,
yeah.
Even though the Cavs have been together and had a great year, and Boston, obviously, nobody else in the East.
So you're not buying the Knicks?
They can't win a title.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
The Knicks are great. They're a really good team. I love the Knicks. But I may be going to New York somebody had asked when's the next JD road game. I said, well,
go out to the Garden.
I shouldn't say that because they're actually in New York and then Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's a twofer. But then they're in Charlotte before. That's unconfirmed by KNBR management. But I tell you, there is somebody at a competing station that's probably feverishly watching this on their phone, and JD's going to go to New York.
I hope we look cute. I'll say that.
JD's going to go to New York. Oh my God! I might have to send somebody to New York.
Nice stat here from Robert, by the way.
Look. JD's going to New York. Look.
0-7 against top 3. Well, I mean, they are top 3. They are top 3.
You know who I'm talking about.
I'm going to let JD live in his world right there, and we'll kind of keep going through the chat. Get ready to wrap things up pretty soon. Great showing by everyone. By the way, I just want to take a moment to say that I know we started the show late. I know there was the Andre Iguodala jersey retirement, but I really am stoked to see the amount of people tune in to our little Dubs OT YouTube stream, considering it's a Sunday. Everyone's getting ready for the week. We were a lot later than after the actual game, and people showed up.
People showed up and showed out. Greg, I mean, we're kind of on Greg's timeline. I want to go to I want to go like another 15.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to take it like close to the 6 o'clock. Like if we were on the radio, it would be like, yeah, we're gonna take it to 5:55 and then have like 20 minutes of spots at the end.
Beautiful.
We don't have to do that now, but yeah, it was Andis. You're right. It is Petty JD. Petty JD. I love it. Yeah, yeah. Petty JD is a thing.
You guys taking Petty JD or Petty Steph? Because I mean,
Well, it's Petty Steph.
I love both though. Like, it's not that big of a gap for me, if I'm being completely honest.
It's Petty Steph, but people it's Petty Steph. I go, as you know, because you've seen it, you've witnessed it. Greg has witnessed it. I go from 0 to like Draymond on Gobert, and like, I mean, like I will,
Without the actual physical choking.
Well, how do you know?
Well, I mean, I've never seen it. I've never witnessed it.
How do you know, Greg? No, yes, without physical violence. Without physical violence. I will say that.
Well, it's great because earlier I was thinking when Steve Kerr called that timeout after the 9-4 start, and he was visibly pissed off with what was going on with the team. And you were with me in the postgame. I had to ask him about it.
You asked Steve about it. It was spot on.
Because I was like, what was your message? Kind of hoping he would,
break it. I broke a clipboard.
Yeah, hoping it would be something.
I looked right in Steph's eyes and told him to wake the F up. Like that's what you were hoping.
I mean, that was kind of
that's why you asked the question.
Steve did give me the G-rated answer. He said, I think a lot of it I'll attribute to the 12:30 start, but
yeah,
just kind of hoping got a little fire there. And because I love angry Steve Kerr because it kind of reminds me of angry JD. It's like, hey, if you're on the other side of that, that's a signal of get your stuff together right now.
By the way, mom checking in. Stop. Mom checking in. Stop. Too much beer. That's exactly what Mom's watching.
I'm never going to argue with moms in general.
You can't.
No, mothers always know best.
And again, for those that don't know, my mother and Greg share a birthday.
That's right.
Not in the same year, but the same date.
That's right.
So yes. It coming up in April. So anyway, so yeah, I have not had too much. Greg can attest to that. And then she followed that up with, you've said the S word twice. And I said, yeah, we're not on the radio. It's okay. I'm allowed to.
That's right.
And she says, well, that doesn't mean you should. So again, it's just vintage. And then people will ask me, JD, where do you get the temper from? And it's totally my mom. It's 100% my mom. My dad is like the more thoughtful, sentimental, like historian, look back. My mom is totally the petty fire. If she ever
wants to come hang out at Harmonic, I feel like she deserves the opportunity to get a microphone and share her side of the story here because she's got to witness it through a screen. And we're taking her son's word at face value here. And not that I don't trust her son, but
no.
Look, good family discussion. Who doesn't want to miss that?
No, well, we'll save that for April.
So, Bob, I was going to reference this actually.
Yes, let's steer us back, Greg.
1.5 games behind the 6th seed right now after the Clippers have lost 2.
That's it. And I mean, the Clippers have a very difficult schedule remaining. The Warriors don't have the tiebreaker. They're not going to have the tiebreaker against the Kings in all likelihood, but who cares if you end up ahead of them in the standings? And by the way, do you know who the Warriors play the last game of the regular season?
Blazers.
It's the Clippers.
Oh.
So the Warriors don't have the tiebreaker, but if they can go into that game no worse than tied, that game would be another Sunday afternoon game on April the 13th. That game would be for the 6th seed potentially, or for whoever would finish above the other. I mean, the Clipper, it could be for the 8th.
Is that going to be right here at Chase Center, or is it going to be?
It's here. It's here.
So they don't have to deal with the wall.
They've already played 2 at the wall. They played the.
Right.
Yeah.
The game where nobody played. That's right.
They played the game where nobody played, and they played the game where you and Greg had your debut that day.
That is correct.
So the memories coming back. So yeah, they play the Clip. They don't have the tiebreaker. They've lost the first 3 of the Clippers. How's it going? And they play them at the end of the year, final game of the year. Actually, a couple interesting matchups. I dove into the schedule a little bit because I'm a schedule nerd at during the All-Star break. Warriors play the Clippers the last game of the year. I was looking at who's 10 and 11 right now. 10 and 11 right now. Those two teams play each other the final game of the year.
Sacramento, Phoenix.
Sacramento and Phoenix play each other the final game. So there might be a 10-11 for the play-in tournament on the final afternoon of the year over in Sacramento, I think is that one.
And so the standings have been very friendly to the Warriors coming out of the break here. And we all know things can change very fast. It's not a foregone conclusion, but among those teams that continue to slide, it's not just the Clippers who the Warriors are trying to reach their mark at 6. It's also the Suns who have been kind of on their tail. They also continue to lose. Warriors got a 3-game gap on Phoenix right now.
Yeah, the Suns are just, I mean, they got blown out in Toronto. Like, think about that. The Warriors kicked a game away they should have won in Toronto. The Suns barely beat Chicago the other night on the road. Had to come back in the second half and win. I was watching a little bit of that game. I mean, Kevin Durant was awful today. Played 40 minutes. Kevin Durant played 40 minutes today and had 15 points. Was 5 for 15. I mean, they're horrible. They might not. They should be better than Sacramento. They might not be better. Like, Sacramento might get in as the 10 seed by default. I don't think the Kings are going to get above the 10 seed. That's another prediction. I think they are actually. I think if the Suns give a damn, they'll get the 10 and the Kings will drop out. But the Suns are in shambles. Like, they almost look like Dallas did a couple years ago, where Dallas ended up saying, bleep it.
And then they got Derek Lively.
We don't want it. Like, remember when the Mavs 2 years ago punted on it? They were like, yeah, we don't even want it.
Didn't they get punished for that by the league?
Yeah.
Either a fine or it was something.
Yeah, they basically were like, no, we're tanking. Like, F this.
But then they got Derek Lively, and then they made a couple trades, and they got to the finals. They decided their star player was fat. And,
I mean, the Suns, that is wild. The Suns, I mean, I saw when you mentioned it, the standings, that they lost again, and I'm like, God, who did they lose to? I know they're on a road trip.
A team that the Warriors lost to.
They got destroyed, and a team that actually Sacramento ended up lost their game in Toronto also.
Are the Raptors good?
17-39 says no.
808 KNBR. Are the Raptors good?
Yeah, call in and tell Bill Lasky right now. What is Bill still on?
No.
He said we should have flipped this thing on the radio at 5:00.
Yeah, I know. But hey, then we wouldn't have been able to say the S word.
Then we wouldn't have been able to. Then we wouldn't have been able to curse. All right, Greg. Let's do some rapid fire. Let's just do some chats, man. Like, I love the folks in the chat. I'm like way at the top. Like, just start at the top, dude. Just start at the top. We're gonna go all the way to the top of the chat, and just start and just whatever you want or think that we haven't gotten to, we'll both comment on it. I'll be long-winded as hell, so you can kind of keep scanning and also be able to comment on it. But it is our Dubs OT with JD and Greg Silver show here from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. The Eddie had his band playing, by the way, before we get to San Jose Jazz Fan 4. Eddie's band was playing. And they're packing up, and it was awesome. And I hear Jimmy was actually the lead singer on a couple of songs.
We missed it,
and we missed it because we were in. And I guess Jimmy requested that he wanted to go while everybody was still inside.
Okay, well played, Jimmy. All right,
Jimmy would want. I said, Jimmy, I will stop this show if you're singing lead with Eddie's band, and Jimmy was like, no, I want no part of that. So anyway, it was a fun day here at Harmonic Brewing. All right, San Jose Jazz Fan 4. The issue with Pods has always been shooting. If Pods goes 7 for 15, 3 for 5 rest of the way, he deserves an apology. We shall see. Wow, where are you on that? I don't think Pods should ever be in a position where he's taking that many shots if he's not hitting.
Yeah, I'm with you. And today was a good day to where he was allowed to take that many shots.
He was an
outlier.
3 threes.
And it was good. They were blowing him out.
Everybody else was good, but that's kind of the outlier, right?
Yeah. I mean, kind of like Kaminga, right? If with Pods, it's not so much the production on the stat sheet that really counts. It's playing winning basketball, and that's something he's done pretty well in his time as a Golden State Warrior, with exception to the stretch of the first part of this year when he had to play with the mask, and Steve Kerr called him out publicly in the post-game press conference and Then he was injured, took a while to come back, and since he's come back, he's played some damn good basketball.
He's played some excellent basketball, and again, him and Moses Moody both have been playing spectacularly well. Erwin Kwong, you can see the confidence in PT so playing time directly translates to improved play from Moody. It's chicken and the egg. I don't want to belabor it. I do think, though, Greg, that he started playing well and then got more minutes. It wasn't he got the minutes and then he started playing well. For me, I think because you go back to that Boston game, he was really bad, I think, in that game, if memory serves, or maybe he was one of the guys that actually played well in that game. But right around that time, he was not playing well. And people were doing the usual Moses Moody complaints. Why is he not playing? Why is he not playing? But it's because he's not playing well. And I think since then, really, I think it really started with the Sacramento game on the 22nd in January, where he started to play better. And as he started to play better, circumstances dictated that he would get more run. And as he got more run, then it became, all right, the improved play is directly related.
I don't want to belabor the point either, but I will use that 4-for-1 trade comparison that we've kind of thrown in since Jimmy Butler came. There's just fewer capable role players who aren't stars available for the Warriors to trot out there. So I think it's helped Moody in that he probably doesn't have to press as hard. He knows he's going to get a little bit of a longer leash, especially with Kaminga out. And on top of that, he's played some good basketball as well. So I think the decluttering of the bench has been a big benefit to Podziemski, but especially Moses Moody.
And here's the deal. They're 8-0, 9-0 when he starts.
9-0.
9-0 now. Yeah, it was 8-0 coming in. 9-0 now when he starts. He's not going anywhere. He's starting. Podziemski's starting, and they're going to have to figure it out from there. What else we got here in the YouTube chat? The Rusty Nail, that Quentin poster made my heart. Look, Quentin Post, DGAF. He don't GAF.
But also those back-to-back Quentin Post buckets were plays generated by Jimmy Butler.
Yes, they were.
Driving from one sideline, kicking to the opposite corner, post three. Then there was the loose ball. Moody tracked it down, missed the layup. Butler tracks down the rebound, hit the cutting post. You know what happened. Dunk, fired up, Steph off his seat.
And you want to talk about making a big impact in a short period of time? That's what Quentin Post has been doing. I mean, he played 15 minutes the other night in Sacramento. 3, helped flip the game, plus 21. Like that, the amount of playing time doesn't necessarily matter as it relates to your impact. And I think Quentin Post has been primary player that's helped exude that for this Warriors team.
Yeah, he's had some great contributions as a 52nd pick in the draft. So there you have it. We got Erwin just having a brew before the broadcast. Okay, you're done, right?
Good.
You're
let's go rapid fire. Man, we got about 5 minutes left. Rapid fire through this. Yes, he did, Joe H. Draymond really wanted to rub it into the Mavs at the end of the game. It was petty Draymond for sure with the P.J. Washington night from going back to what, last week or a couple weeks ago, I guess, before the All-Star break. And, yeah, Draymond and Steph, don't forget, I respect the petty. I do. I respect the petty. 19-9 offensive rebound advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Warriors are very aggressive on the boards. The Mavs with no size.
Here's our Splash Brothers again, although the Kolsch Brothers, I think, is the nickname we got to coin.
Yeah, I like the Kolsch Brothers. I like the Kolsch Brothers better. It's funny. I didn't think we were going to, because it was a day. I was trying to think it was a day, an afternoon show. I really thought to myself as I look at the camera, I was like, we're not going to need the light today.
Yeah.
Because it's a day. And it turns out we did need the light. Like, I'm going to file that away. Like, we're a little dark. We're a little dark right now. Like, I should have packed the light.
We got, where's the KNBR merch? Well, we do got the tablecloth here. It is out of focus on the
yeah, I mean, yeah, you want to buy a puffer coat? You want to buy a poofy coat?
Dude, I can't even get my own hands. This is my quick aside as we kind of wrap things up.
I set you up with a KNBR puffer.
How come Jack Loader, our new digital guy, is just stacked with KNBR merch, and then all of our other staff, nothing?
Well,
he beat the system.
There's something. Have you ever heard of Eddie Haskell?
No.
It's way before my time. It's way before your time. But look it up. He's kind of that guy.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's way before my time. It's way before your time. It's way before a lot of people's times. It's not maybe way before our listeners' times, our regular radio listener times, but you got a little of that going. So
I'll end with this one because we did see
my
number
mom will know.
going to the rafters today. Drew.
Yeah, Jimmy is Iguodala-like. He is, but he's a better player. Like he does a lot of things in a similar fashion to Andre Iguodala. There's no doubt. The fundamentals, without a doubt.
It was great to see Andre Iguodala and the fan reception to him today. A lot of ovations, including one for Sean Livingston during Andre's speech, which was awesome. And this was one of the best days vibe-wise for the Bay Area, for this arena that we've seen in quite some time.
Huge vibe day. The vibes were back for sure at Chase Center. It was the first time, I think, maybe since the first Clay game, that the arena was lit and lively. Again, Warrior fans have taken a lot of hell over the fact that they haven't quite been into the games, but I think a lot of Warrior fans are just kind of fed up with being mid. And you can call it spoiled if you want. That I think that's fair. But I mean, this fan base has been treated to a team that lays it out on the line more often than not, or is at least dominant if they're not laying it all on the line. And I think, it's natural to watch a team that can't contend for anything while you're paying prices that are contender prices. And the demographics obviously have changed over the years. They even changed the final few years at Oracle over in Oakland. The final couple years at Oracle were a lot more like some of the Chase Center crowds that get maligned than earlier years of the championship run and We Believe and all of that. So that all, I think, factors into the equation as it relates to that. But one thing I said to our buddy Austin, I said, I think the energy's about to change at Chase. Like I think the crowds are going to be a lot more into it. I think Warrior fans are truly going to vibe off this team, in part because they're going to be winning, but also because of the way they're going to do it. You're going to see players that have maybe been a little underwhelming now become factors, and it's going to create an attachment to those players, I think, which is going to be longer standing. I think you're seeing it with Moody, you're seeing it with Podziemski. I also think they're going to be a little edgy. Like, they're going to be an edgy team. They're going to be a petty team. Like, they're going to be a team that, I said it, I think a lot of opponents are going to hate. Like, I think the Warriors are going to become, between now and the playoffs, and it might take them getting in and playing a series. But I'm gonna don't be surprised if statement right here. I think the Warriors are going to get back to being kind of hated by everybody else, which is only going to make it more beloved by the Warrior fan base. Like, I just think there's going to be an edge to it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fight or an almost fight against somebody between now and the end of the year. Like, I think it's going to
no suspensions, please.
It's going to get real quick.
Book it. That's a bar from JD. And if we see a fight, I want everyone to think of him first. Think of JD predicting the fight, but not fighting with his mother.
I'm coming over, not fighting with mom, but coming over the table at the the guy who wants to see my travel bookings to decide where his travel bookings should be.
Yeah, it's well, speaking of travel, I'm looking forward to a good week in Indy.
If there's ever somebody I'd go bear on, you know who you are.
All right, and on that note, great stuff, guys.
Great stuff. Great show. I look, man. I am Draymond wrapped inside of Jimmy Butler with the memory of Steph Curry when it comes to being petty. Like, it's like I get all of it. Like, I understand all of it to that point. So, all right, yes, we will say some thank yous and let's do some fun with numbers here.
Oh, yes. It's been a while.
We got to do some fun with numbers. I've got a bunch of fun with numbers stuff saved here, and there, with the Warriors suddenly winning, there's a bunch of new ones that pop up. It's 5 of the last 6, obviously, all with Jimmy Butler. 4 of the last 5 at home, so they're playing better at home. 16-13 on the home floor. 30-27. When was the last time they were 3 games over 500? I don't even know. Like that one, I didn't even bother. When was the last time they were 3 games over 500?
When they were skidding after 12-3.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, it had to be at that point because 18 and 16 have been the high mark up in of late. 30 assists. Warriors got to 30 for the second straight game. They had 40 the other night in Sacramento. 16 and 7 when they have 30 assists. So the ball movement has been there. This is the Warriors' second straight game they won by 24 or more. So the blowouts are coming, and you know what blowouts do? They allow guys to rest a little bit for games where you're going to need them more. Warriors handled the small Mavs on the boards, 54 boards. And then some of the individual numbers. But before we get to that, Warriors had 30 fast break points.
Ooh.
30 fast break points for the Warriors in this game. They don't do it a lot. You know how many times they've had 30 fast break points?
1.
5.
Ah.
You know what their record is when they have 30? I'm sorry. Not even 30. I apologize. The Warriors have had 25 or more fast break points 5 times. So if you lower the number to have 5 times, what's the Warriors' record when they have 25 or more fast break points?
4-1 with 1 loss they really shouldn't have had.
5-0.
Oh!
Yeah, they don't lose. So, and where do you get fast break points if you're the Warriors, an older team? Turnovers. Defense. It's defense leading to offense. That's something that I think has become a bigger part of the equation. Steph had 30, basically had 30 at the end of the third quarter. In this one, not even basically, he did have 30 in the third quarter. His 13th 30-point game. Brandon Podziemski, first double-double, 17 points, career-high 13 rebounds for Podziemski. His previous career high was 11. Moses Moody, 15th time in the last 17 games for Moody. He's been in double figures scoring. To trace that back, 14 points for Moody. Jimmy Butler III. I think we're going to have to start calling him Jimmy Butler III.
So far, so good.
First game at Chase, 18 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. I feel like that's his line every night is like 18, 5, 5. Made all 8 free throws. You can just pencil in 8 free throws, right? Not always double digits, but he gets to the free throw line. And he made all 8 of his free throw attempts to give him 55. Wait, he made all 8 of his free throw attempts to give him 55. Okay, that is the second most. I'm not even going to read it. I was going to say it's the second most free throw attempts in the beginning of a Warriors career since. I don't want to mention this guy's name. I don't want to attach this guy to Jimmy Butler.
Oh, Corey Maggette.
Corey Maggette.
Oh,
that's Jonathan Kaminga's comp, not Jimmy Butler's comp. I apologize, Jonathan. Quentin Post, 10 points off the bench. 6th game in double figures. Quentin, do you know what Quentin Post is shooting from 3, by the way?
45.
43.5.
Ooh!
43.5% from 3-point range. And man, we are crushing it for this late in the show and this far after the game in terms of our viewership here on YouTube and Twitch. We appreciate it, everybody. So for Greg, I'm JD. That's going to do it. You got a final thought, Greg?
Keep this thing moving.
Keep it
Talk
rolling.
to you at 10 a.m.
Warriors have Charlotte on Tuesday. That's the next time you'll hear from me. Greg's back on tomorrow with Greg Papa, 10 until 2. And Greg's gonna be a regular contributor to this show here. We'll hammer it out. I mean, not that he hasn't been. He has been. I mean, God, he's done.
Yeah, but I'll switch between the G spot and the G spot.
We're gonna figure out how to do more regular Greg, but he's along for the ride, and we appreciate him, especially on these YouTube only shows where we can be a little bit more colorful in our language and our analysis. So for Greg, I'm JD. For Shay and for Eddie and for Jimmy and for Mike out here at Harmonic and Austin Scott still working back there at Chase. We'll talk to you Tuesday, Dubs OT on the Sports Leader.